Hey, what is going on, everybody? This is Beanie and welcome back to another video. In this video we are going to be talking about all the new legends that were revealed yesterday. There were 4 of them and they're all pretty good, some of them better than the others, but and we're also going to talk about the 8 new special edition diamonds that you'll be getting if you purchase the special edition of the game at launch. They'll be available at launch. You can pick 1 through 30, and 8 more were revealed in this past stream yesterday, and the final 10 will be released next week. So we'll get into those next week, but today we're just going to focus on the 8 that were talked about yesterday. I'm going to give you my opinions on these legends. We have the attributes for all of them. So yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about, and let's get into it. Okay, I think I'm going to go worst to best here with the legends, but the first guy that we're going to talk about is AJ Burnett. And, you know, every year they have to kind of pad out the legends and everything and give us guys who were pretty good players in their career, but I don't know if I would, you know, elevate them up to legend quality. But AJ Burnett was a very good pitcher. The version that they have up here is an 83 overall gold, but I'm sure at some point he'll get a diamond. That's fine, no big deal, you know. But still, this is probably one of the better gold pitchers that you're going to be seeing this year. He has great per nines, 87, 86. He's going to be a little wild with only 44 walk per nine. The home run per nine, now this year, a lot of you guys know this, home run per nine is going to be a thing this year. Like, it's going to be effective. In the past, it's only been a simulation stat. So now that that's in the game, that 78 home run per nine might help out a little bit, keep guys in the ballpark. And then obviously the thing that you're really looking at with this card is the stuff. He's got fantastic stuff. He throws really hard. He's got solid break on all of his pitches. He has really good speed differentials as well. The fact that he has a 96 mile an hour fastball, a 95 mile an hour changeup, and then he can break you off with that 81 mile an hour, I meant sinker, and then he can break you off with that 81 mile per hour changeup. That's going to be pretty lethal early on in the game. Obviously, there are going to be some cards that come out that are better, and eventually this card will get relegated to where nobody uses him anymore. But early game in the early stages of MLB The Show 19, this could be a pretty appealing card for you to go after, try to pick up and see what he can do, because I think he'll end up being pretty effective. The only thing that I kind of wish that he had, a slider that'd make him a lot more effective, but as he is right now, it's a pretty solid card. Okay, next up we have Don Mattingly, and I love having Don Mattingly in the game. That's a pretty cool legend in my opinion. He might not be one that I ever use, but it's he's a guy that I'm glad that he's in the game. But his card, the attributes, it's just a kind of card that I don't like. I don't like guys that maybe have like high contact versus righties, but really kind of mediocre power, but then they hit lefties really good. Like, it's tough for me to envision a scenario where I'd want him on my team, you know. Maybe as a platoon guy that still hits righties okay, so you can leave him in your lineup after you pinch hit him or something like that. Maybe there is some benefit there. Plus, this Don Mattingly does have really high vision. I believe, yeah, 116 vision, so that's pretty nice. He's also pretty good defensively, which is always, you know, a positive. He's very versatile. So there are some things to like about this card, but his hitting profile is one that I just tend to avoid usually whenever I'm in MLB The Show. But now that we have a new meta in the game where contact is going to be more important and power maybe less so, maybe I can get by with that 64 power versus righties. You know, maybe I can deal with it, and this card will end up being more valuable than I'm giving it credit for. But right now, I'm just kind of in a wait-and-see mode with him, and if this would have been 18, I totally wouldn't have been interested in this card. Okay, next up is the exact opposite of Don Mattingly. We have Bret Boone, and this is the kind of card that I really, really like. He's a very balanced hitter across the board, and he excels at contact versus left-handed pitching. That is a big, big benefit. He also has 77 vision, so your PCI is going to be plenty big enough to do what you want to do. 83, 79 versus righties, 125, 82 versus lefties. It's just a really well-balanced card. He plays second base, so those hitting stats for a second baseman are really, really good, especially early on in the game. So this is a card that I really want to get my hands on kind of early. I know it's a ranked seasons reward, or at least ostensibly it's a ranked season award. But as soon as I get to the World Series, he's going right into my lineup, and he'll probably be there for a good while until I can get like a signature series second baseman or something like that. I'm a big fan of this card, and he also plays good defense. He has an 84 fielding, 76 reaction, solid arm for second base. I love everything about this card. I think he's going to be a big benefit. You know, whenever they said Bret Boone is going to be in the game, I'm like, you know, like, I liked Bret Boone. He played a year with the Braves. Like, he's a pretty cool player, and I'm glad he's in the game. But is he really going to be that good? Like, I couldn't imagine him being that impactful of a player. Then I looked at his 2001 stats, and I'm like, oh, hell yeah, this card could definitely be viable. So yeah, I'm glad Bret Boone's in the game. That's a solid addition by SDS. Okay, and then finally we got another like really old classic style player, Hal Newhouser. And anytime we get one of these really old guys, I'm always gonna kind of like it more than the newer guys, unless it's someone that I really kind of grew up loving, like Chipper or Andrew or something like that. But Hal Newhouser, he's just a cool player. You know, all these old players like Jimmy Fox and Ty Cobb and Hal Newhouser and Walter Johnson, I've always heard their name, and I knew that they were great baseball players and everything, but I was never really able to visualize like what it was like playing back then, and like, you know, how good were they, and like how good would they have been compared to now and everything. And now with SDS bringing in all these really old-timey legends, it's a lot easier for me to see that, because we don't have any video of these guys playing, you know? So having them in the game now and being able to, at least to some extent, kind of, you know, see what they were all about is really awesome. And this card is going to be really good, too. He's a lefty, which, you know, some years being a lefty is a benefit, some years it's a detriment. This past year, it was I kind of rolled with righties most of the time. I just didn't trust myself with left-handed pitchers, but maybe, I don't know, maybe in 19 it'll be different, so maybe being a lefty will be a benefit. But regardless, he has really solid per nines. You know, his control's not great, but it's okay. And then he's got just like the AJ Burnett, he's got great stuff, and he's got insanely good stamina. So yeah, the one thing that maybe kind of concerns me a little bit with this card is the pitch selection. He has two fastballs, both of them just, you know, a straight four-seam and then a two-seamer. We'll see how good the two-seamer is. And then a sweeping curve and a changeup. And the sweeping curve is a good pitch, but I always like to have like a smaller breaking pitch, like a slider, or just like a regular curveball or a slurve or something like that to go with the sweeping curve. Because one thing that I've noticed about the big sweeping curve and the 12-6 curve is that they can be really tough to control, and you'll hang a lot of them. Now, if you can spot the sweeping curve, it's going to be devastating. But if you end up hanging a sweeping curve, it gets hit harder than almost any pitch in the game. So that kind of concerns me a little bit, especially with the lower control and walk per nine and everything. But ultimately, I think this card is going to end up being okay. It's just going to be a matter of figuring out how to pitch to righties. If you're just going to have to go all fastball changeup and you can't really throw that sweeping curve, he's going to be tough to figure out, but ultimately, I think he'll end up being viable. Okay, that is it with the Legends. Now I'm going to quickly run through all of the special edition diamonds that were shown during the stream, and some of them are pretty good, some of them not so much. First, we're going to start with this Joe Carter, and this Joe Carter's been in the game, I think, since 15. Yeah, I think he was the Blue Jay collection reward in 15, I'm pretty sure. I don't exactly remember, but I know he's been in the game for a really long time. And he always has like the same kind of card. Like, he murders lefties. He's like below average against righties. He has okay vision. Well, this card actually has really good vision, but he's not going to be that good in the field. He's just never a card that I've really fucked with all that much. You know, like he doesn't interest me, not even as a platoon bat. Usually you can find better platoon bats out there. But if you're a Blue Jays fan or something, I don't know, maybe you want to give this card a go, at least on your bench, you know, so you can like sub him in if you want to. I don't really know, but yeah, yeah. Okay, next up we have Bob Feller, and I really wish that they would have zoomed in to show us the attributes on this Bob Feller so we could have seen the pitches. Like, you can see up here, like, by the way, if you didn't see up, oh man, that's out of up here. That's where the attributes are shown on this, but it doesn't show the pitches that he throws, which kind of sucks, because I'd really like to see if he threw a sinker. If this Bob Feller threw a sinker or a changeup, one of those two pitches or both of them maybe, then he would probably end up being my pick of all the special edition diamonds, because this card is filthy. I mean, he has fantastic pronines, he has fantastic stuff. Only thing he doesn't really have is great control, but if you use analog pitching, so far I've been able to get by on that. I've never really had any problems with like the Nolan Ryan or the Feller or anybody really has never really given me any trouble controlling the ball. But yeah, this Bob Feller looks amazing. I'm kind of wait and see just until I can see what pitches he has. Once I get that information, I'll be a little more confident in saying whether or not I'm going to pick him up. Next up, we have Barry Larkin, and Barry Larkin is a really good example of a guy that, or at least this version of him, is an example of a guy that maybe wouldn't have been picked up in MLB 18 because he doesn't have any power at all, but maybe in 19 he'll be a lot more viable, and maybe you want to get that speed on your team and that good defense and that great contact. Maybe that's something that interests you this year. And I have a feeling that not a lot of people are going to pick him whenever whenever they are picking their special edition diamond, because you can only pick one. So I started thinking about it, and I was like, you know what, if it's true that the meta is going to lean more towards contact this year, and vision and PCI and things like that, and defense and speed, if that's going to be the meta this year, then going into the year, they're going to kind of know it, but they're not going to really believe it. So they're not going to pick Larkin. That means this card is going to be pretty rare. And if you pick this card up and just kind of hold on to it for a while, and then people start to figure out the meta and start to see that contact is important and speed is important, they may look at this Larkin card on the market and be like, yo, I'm kind of feeling this Larkin card. I want to pick it up, but there aren't going to be any on the market because nobody picked, or there are not going to be many on the market anyway because nobody picked them. So cards like this, I would look out for stuff like that this year, because it is going to be a lot different. And if that ends up happening, this card could probably net you more stubs than like any of the other cards in the set, because everybody is going to have them because they were just so commonly picked. But this card could be interesting in that way. So, if you're looking at the special edition diamond as more of an investment, this might be the card to go with. As far as his playing, once again, I just kind of have to see how the meta plays out, because we've had Barry Larkin a few years now, and he's never really been viable before, but maybe with the new meta, he will be. Next up, we have the 87 overall Mike Schmidt, and it kind of reminds me of the Joe Carter. You know, it's a righty with natural splits favoring lefties. The only difference really being is that he plays third base, and he's a pretty good fielder. Like, I know the good Mike Schmidt was like an ultimate elite fielder, but this one's only got 83 fielding with 67 reaction, so it's only like okay. He's not that good versus righties. He does have good vision, which is kind of surprising for a Mike Schmidt card. But yeah, this card really doesn't interest me that much. If you're looking for a platoon infielder, though, maybe this is a guy that can help your team out a little bit, maybe. I've seen a lot of people trash this Buster Posey card, and they even mentioned it in the stream that they've heard a lot of people trash this Posey card, and I get why. This card is very similar to the Don Mattingly that I was talking about earlier, in that he doesn't have that power versus righties that most people look for whenever they're looking for their hitters. But there is a difference. This guy is a catcher, so Obviously, catchers aren't going to be as good as your other positions. You're probably going to have to take a slight knock offensively just to get them in the lineup. And this card, for the most part, I think early on, this is probably going to be one of the best hitting catchers in the game. Maybe they come out with a Jorge Posada early on that's a little bit better. But so far, from what I've seen, this is probably the best hitting catcher that I've seen so far. And he's solid defensively. I don't really care about catcher defense that much. Maybe that'll change this year. But yeah, I mean, 89-80 versus lefties, fantastic, especially with that 89 vision. And then against righties, 86-60, that is not bad for a catcher. You're not going to find many catchers that are better than that at launch. They're not going to be there. Usually, catcher is always the weakest position, especially at launch. That's always the position that I really struggle to find a guy. So I think this guy's a really viable pickup for your special edition diamond. I don't think it's as bad as people are making out. None of these cards are really, or probably they're not going to be on your team once you're like 2-3 months in. None of them are. So I think the best idea going in is to get a guy that can help your team early and then will net you some stubs later on. And I think that this Posey could be the perfect kind of guy for that, you know. Next up, we have the 87 overall Cliff Floyd, and surprisingly, this is probably one of the most balanced hitters out of all the special edition diamonds that we saw released yesterday, or not released, but what's the word I'm looking for? Introduced yesterday. He's really, really good. I mean, he has 75 vision, so that's plenty of vision for your PCI to be big enough. He has 90 plus contact versus both sides and 70 plus power versus both sides. He's good against everybody. He's not the best fielder in the world, but he's okay. He's bronze level. He's fine. And then he's got a, you know, probably a silver level arm, I guess, which is not bad. And he also has 65 speed, which is enough to do some damage on the base pass. Not a ton, but some. This is also another guy that I think could maybe, if you're looking for a guy to impact you a little bit longer term, this might be the guy. But the only issue with that is that outfield does tend to be one of the deepest positions in Diamond Dynasty. So maybe you don't want to end up picking an outfielder. I would say that's the only drawback with this card. Next up, this card might even be better than the Cliff Floyd. He's not as good from a contact standpoint. He only has low 70s contact, but he does kind of make up for it with slightly higher vision. And this card is actually more powerful than the Cliff Floyd. And he's a better fielder than the Cliff Floyd. He can move around the outfield pretty well. This is a really solid card all the way around. I mean, he's a diamond level hitter and a gold level fielder. I think they're a little generous with that diamond shield hitting. Like, I don't know if I would rate, like, I don't know. I think they need to have a higher threshold. I'd probably list Cliff and Steve as like gold level hitters, but whatever, to each their own. But yeah, this is just across the board, just a solid player. He doesn't have the stealing to really do a ton of damage on the base pass, but he does have the speed to where he could stretch a double into a triple occasionally, a single into a double maybe. So yeah, all across the board, solid player. Probably going to end up being one of the better special edition diamonds at launch. Sorry about the little picture ID in front of my Ian Kinsler here. Whenever I took the snip of this, I couldn't get it to go away for this picture for whatever reason. It was kind of odd. But anyways, the Ian Kinsler, the 87 overall Ian Kinsler, great contact versus righties, okay versus lefties, and then well below average power versus both sides. But then really good vision. So once again, it all depends on the meta. Where does the meta take us? If it takes us in the direction of contact, this is going to be a great card. If it doesn't, it's not going to be so good. He's okay at defensively. He is a second baseman, so he doesn't really need a ton of arm strength or anything like that. And he is going to be a problem on the base pass with 73 speed and 84 stealing. That's starting to get into the threshold to where you can see if you got a really aggressive opponent, they might start stealing on you every time he gets on base. You know, with 84 stealing is a really, really good first step. So yeah. Solid card, probably, if the meta is going where I'm thinking it's going. But overall, probably not going to end up being my pick. I may end up doing the 10 that were, or how many were previously released before this? There are 8 here. So the 12. The 12 that were previously released before this, or talked about before this, I may do a video on them because they also gave the attributes for those guys, but that will be in a separate video. For now, this is all that we're going to do. And yeah, I will have a couple more videos tomorrow talking, really kind of diving in deep into like the mechanics of how Diamond Dynasty and all that works. So stay tuned for that. I love you guys. I will see you guys. What's tomorrow? I mean, I know I'm going to see you tomorrow, but what's the day? I fucking forgot what day it is. Saturday? Is it Saturday? I think it's Saturday, right? Yes, I'll see you guys tomorrow on Saturday. Love you guys. I will see you guys later. Peace.